Hey, welcome to a new video. About 10% of our planet is covered in ice. But due to climate change, glaciers and ice caps are melting rapidly. And as they melt, scientists sometimes find strange things under the ice. Are you new to this channel? Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And before we start, also like the video. Antarctica is known as an icy wasteland where it's difficult to survive. If you're not a penguin. But one of the strangest things researchers ever discovered is evidence of a rainforest. In fact, they found a whole network of roots, pollen, and other traces near Pine Island Glacier. This soil indicates an ancient world where the average temperature was just over 53.6 degrees Fahrenheit, or 12 degrees Celsius, and summer temperatures rose to 64.4 degrees Fahrenheit, or 18 degrees Celsius. So Antarctica hasn't always been covered in snow and ice. Scientists have determined that these temperatures were normal in the area about 90 million years ago. So at the time dinosaurs roamed Antarctica, it was a rainforest. And who knows what prehistoric creatures might have existed there. As you probably know, only about 5% of our planet's oceans have been discovered. Recent research showed that Saturn's moon also has an ocean with high concentration of hydrogen, methane, and carbon dioxide. This was discovered in the liquid rock, just as it is deep within our Earth. Some scientists therefore assume that far below the icy shell, a methane-producing process could exist. It would even suggest that there's a real possibility that life is present on Saturn's moon. If this can actually be proven, it will have a huge impact, because it means we're not alone in the vast universe. Do you think life exists on other planets? Let me know in the comments. The Endurance ship was considered lost, but it was recently found in Antarctica, at the bottom of the Weddell Sea. In 1915, Antarctic explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton's ship was crushed by sea ice, and no one has been since able to find it. Interestingly, despite having been underwater for more than a century, the ship looks good, and it's in a remarkable condition. ATLATL darts are one of the oldest weapons in the world. They were used by Native Americans thousands of years ago. This ATLATL dart was discovered by Craig Lee, a research associate at the University of Colorado. He found it in a melting ice field in the Rocky Mountains. By studying the weapon, he thinks it was used by a hunter about 10,000 years ago, and fortunately, it was very well preserved. The nearly 1 meter long arrow is made of a special type of tree, and the personal markings written on it by its owner are still clearly visible. Craig is a specialist in archaeology of ice fields. He thinks there's much to discover under the ice. At the moment, they're said to be developing scientific methods in hopes of finding and protecting more artifacts in the future. Lake VOSTOK is one of the largest lakes in Antarctica, and it was recently announced that Russian scientists have discovered a creature hiding deep in the lake's waters. This creature is called Organism 46b, and it looks like a giant squid-like creature with 14 tentacles. The creature is believed to be about 33 feet or 10 meters in length, and it can also spread toxins in the water. Pretty creepy, don't you think? Antarctica is a very remote place from the rest of the world, but according to researchers, a complex network of tunnels is said to have been carved into the ice. The Amundsen Scott Station at the South Pole was established in 1956 as a research facility that housed hundreds of researchers and staff. When they uncovered the web of tunnels, the staff did their best to explore. But with minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 51 degrees Celsius, that wasn't an easy task. At least, that's the story. In fact, there's very little info available about it, and some believe that these tunnels were not made by humans, but that it has to do with UFOs and aliens. What do you think? The Allen Hills 84001 is a controversial meteorite that many scientists believe is a fragment that came from the planet Mars. It was found near the Allen Hills in Antarctica by geologists on snowmobiles in 1984. The meteorite weighed nearly 2 kilograms. After investigation, it was concluded that the object is the oldest meteorite from Mars, of about 4 billion years old to have landed on Earth. The meteorite is believed to be from the period when Mars still had liquid water on its surface. According to further analysis, it became clear that the meteorite would have traveled from Mars to Earth about 13,000 years ago. Perhaps more interestingly, some scientists claimed in 1996 to find bacteria on the meteorite that suggest the planet Mars is capable of supporting life. Unfortunately, however, this has never been 100% proven. Alligators appeared on Earth about 37 million years ago. So it's safe to say that they know how to survive in all kinds of situations and under very different weather conditions. However, you may be surprised to learn that these cold-blooded reptiles have a very unusual method of survival. In fact, they freeze their entire bodies, except their snouts that rise above the surface. But why would they do that? This method is called icing, and this allows them to breathe while they're underwater in a very icy state. When people see them stuck like this, many people think that the alligators are no longer alive, and they're just completely frozen. But that's not true. The freezing is similar to the hibernation of a mammal. This method helps reptiles get through the freezing period. There's plenty of different ecosystems on our planet, but recently a new one was discovered in Antarctica called sponge gardens. Deep in the Antarctic Ocean are huge gardens near the tops of extinct volcanoes. These creatures are one of the most basic forms of life on our planet, but they still look super beautiful. Approximately 100,000 glaciers are located in the Alaska region. One of these is the Mendenhall Glacier, which has been shrinking recently. And as the ice melts, remnants of an ancient forest were found. Trunks and stumps have emerged from the ice, and scientists say this is the first time the logs have been exposed to the world in more than 1,000 years. The Mendenhall Glacier covers a 95 square kilometer river of ice that has been flowing into a lake for more than 5 decades now. The University of Alaska at Juneau, who discovered the forest, were surprised because many of the trees are still upright. There's even trees that still have roots. The upright position allows geologists to study the tree and determine how old they are. Another glacier nearby, the Taku Glacier, also shows signs of melting, and of that, an ancient forest is also thought to be hiding under the ice. The Franklin expedition began in 1845, and its mission was to sail across the Northwest Passage. This is the sea route across the Polar Sea from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. This would only be possible through the ice-strewn Arctic entrances of Canada. The expedition's crew was considered the most professional at the time, but after 2 months, they mysteriously disappeared. There was no official information until 2014, but eventually a wreck of one of the expedition ships, the Erebus, was found stuck in 36 feet or 11 meters of frozen water. 2 years later, some more wreckage was found in the ice, and again 3 years later. However, the ship's demise remained a great mystery because the wreckage was out of place. Eventually, it was discovered that the ship had been found far away from where it was actually supposed to have sunk. The remains of the ship which were found there seemed to be frozen in time. Some chests were even still completely closed. The cabins looked neat, and some of their parts also looked untouched. In 1958, an American submarine broke a record and reached the North Pole under the ice. This top-secret mission was called Operation Sunshine. 116 crew members of the 318-foot or 97-meter-long submarine were the first people ever to discover the world under the ice. This achievement opened the door to a new world for scientists. The deepest point on our Earth is probably the Mariana Trench and is located about 7 miles or 11 kilometers below the sea surface in the Pacific Ocean. But in Antarctica, researchers made a strange discovery. In fact, they found the deepest point on the island's mainland. It's located in the eastern part of Antarctica under the Denman Glacier. The Denman Glacier is a giant glacier as much as 12.4 miles or 12 kilometers wide, and about 2 miles or 3.5 kilometers below sea level they found a strange opening filled with ice. Despite countless attempts, no one's been able to find out what's underneath. Every time scientists flew over this opening, it cannot be seen on radar. The most frustrating thing about this is that the Denman Glacier could hold all the answers we need to discover the effect of sea level rise. If you don't like worms, you'll be even more disgusted after seeing this worm. This is because the Antarctic scale worm is a total nightmare. This is an animal with a coat of pure spun gold in its back. It lives more than 1,640 feet or 500 meters deep in the Southern Ocean off Antarctica. So don't worry, you're unlikely to encounter this 8-inch or 20-centimeter long creepy creature. The Lulilaico volcano in Argentina is the world's highest active volcano, and at its summit at about 6,700 meters, 3 Inca mummies were found in March of 1999. The Incas were a Native American people who lived between 1400 and 1533. The most fascinating Inca of the 3 was that found of a teenage girl named La Doncella, and it's estimated that it could have been more than 500 years old. Due to the freezing climate conditions in the area, the Inca mummies were very well preserved. According to experts on Inca culture, they were probably sacrificed as a ritual. Experts were also able to determine through the girl's hair, which was otherwise well preserved, what she ate and drank during the last 2 years of her life. In 2013, a dinosaur species was reportedly found in a Canadian park. The dinosaur resembled a flying dragon, and it was also determined that it was a previously undiscovered species. It had a wingspan of 33 feet or 10 meters, and the dragon was named Cryodragon boreas. This basically means frozen dragon of the north. It's incredible, but the creature was one of the very largest flying animals in our history. Scientists found out that the dragon lived 76 million years ago, during the Cretaceous period. The researchers actually knew about this type of flying dinosaur about 30 years ago, but the existence was not officially confirmed until 2013. In Greek mythology, Hyperborea is an ice land of goods located in the far north. It was a land of eternal spring, joy, and love, because the people lived their long great life there and never had to work hard. Although it's a myth, researchers claim to know an exact location of this island. Scientists believe it was somewhere near modern France, but others claim it was a place near the Ural Mountains. At the peak of their power, the Nazis were doing their utmost to establish world domination. As they did so, they sought whatever technology they could find from ancient civilizations that could help them. That's why the mythical and strange base 211 was established in Antarctica. Although some articles claim that this base really existed, others say it's a legend. The base is said to be located deep in a small ice-free mountain range, in the Mühlich-Hoffmann Peaks in Neuschwabenland. Researchers also said to have found fields of grass and hot springs. Some people are sure that the base is just a cover, believing that Hitler himself fled there after the war. But there's also those who say that this base has something to do with aliens and UFOs. Do you believe this? For those who didn't already know, Antarctica is home to millions of penguins. Even though they're fun and cute, bad things also happen to them due to the extreme weather conditions. It's common for researchers to find mummified penguins. Recently, however, it was found that one group of mummified penguins was an ancient group. According to various tests, these penguins on Cape Irizar are hundreds to thousands of years old. Scientists have dug up mammoth fossils countless times over the years, but this discovery of the Levansky Islands in the Arctic Ocean is a major breakthrough, because it was the first time a woolly mammoth has been found in which there was still flowing blood. A Russian scientist who made the discovery was very surprised when he realized that the mammoth still had blood and muscle tissue. Therefore, this find is very important and allows the animal to be studied more. The remains of the mammoth are also meant to be used for cloning. Scientists think that it may be able to reproduce a living mammoth based on the DNA in its blood and the muscle tissue. Although the lower body, lower jaw, and tongue were very well preserved in the ice, this could explain why the blood was also so well preserved. What would you think if they brought back a woolly mammoth? Let me know in the comments. We're always very surprised when we see animals that are bigger than they should be. But have you ever seen a colossal squid? In 2014, scientists announced that in Antarctica at the South Pole, they had found a 775-pound or 350-kilogram female colossal squid in the ice. And she was even carrying eggs. But what'll surprise you much more is that this type of squid can grow even heavier, as much as 1,100 pounds, or 500 kilograms, and their tentacles can reach up to 13 to 14 feet, or 4 to 5 meters. This squid has 3 hearts and 2 eyes that are very large and special because they need them to explore everything in the dark deep sea. This particular squid was brought to New Zealand, and it's since been well preserved in optimal freezing conditions. If you're interested in seeing the squid, you should travel to the Te Papa Museum in Wellington. In 2007, a new dinosaur species was added to the list of discoveries by scientists after some paleontologists found it on a frozen mountaintop in Antarctica. The remains of a huge unknown dinosaur were hidden in an ice rock, and they had to use drills and chisels to extract the dinosaur, which is now known as the Glaciolosaurus hammeri. The dinosaur is thought to have roamed the Earth about 190 million years ago. It was named after the fossil expert professor William Hammer, who led expeditions to Antarctica. Based on the remains, the Glaciolosaurus hammeri is about 7 meters tall and weighed about 4,000 to 5,000 kilograms, making it one of the largest animals to have ever existed on land. What makes this discovery interesting is that it shows that dinosaurs not only roamed in China, South Africa, and in the Americas, but also Antarctica. Holes in the ice. Sounds strange, but these holes were recently noticed by mission scientist John Suntang, who was very surprised to see such a thing. Experts claim that the ice must probably be young and thin, but they don't understand what exactly caused these holes. However, some experts think the holes are related to the warming of the Arctic, where it's even warmer in the winter. The world's oldest pyramid may not be the ones you know. In one of the most shocking revelations about the frozen continent, a pyramid-like structure was found on satellite imagery near the Shackleton mountain range. The pyramid has the same 4 sides as the Great Pyramid of Giza. The discovery of this giant Antarctic pyramid led to an enormous number of theories. Some say it was left behind by aliens or even highly advanced human civilizations. If scientists can prove that this is an artificial structure, it would mean that it's the oldest pyramid in history. Unfortunately, this has never been proven, so we'll probably never find out the real story behind this pyramid. Have you ever seen this picture? I gotta admit, it looks like it was edited or that aliens invaded our planet. But according to NASA, this is not the case. Then what was it? More than 15 bright blue lights appeared in the sky, and people in Sweden could even see it. While many people thought this was an attack by aliens, NATO later explained that it was part of a scientific experiment by the Andøya Space Center in Norway. They launched 2 rockets that dispersed metal powder into the atmosphere. Some researchers from New Zealand were restoring an old hut in Antarctica when they suddenly discovered very rare photographs. The photos featured explorers from about 100 years ago. In total, they found 22 photos that they believe were left behind by the Ross Sea Party, an expedition led by Ernest Shackleton in 1917. The photos may have been forgotten when the group was rescued. This find is said to be very rare, and it's also extraordinary how the photographs had remained in good condition over the years. Unfortunately, there were hardly any photos available from this expedition, so the discovery of these photos was of historical importance. Included were photographs taken of a volcanic island in Antarctica called Ross, and also a small island called Big Razorback. Want to see a real monster that's been hiding under the ice for centuries? Meet the Monstrolopsis planifrons monster. The beast was discovered by a University of Manitoba student. The student wasn't intentionally looking for it, but accidentally discovered this new creature. The monster has 8 brush-like legs, with which it paddles its almost transparent body in the water. Pretty bizarre, huh? It's safe to say that wolverines are beasts of the northern wilderness, and if you want to know a little more about this amazing animal, you should visit the Arctic regions. Interestingly enough, many people do not like these bizarre animals. This is because they have dagger-like claws, strong jaws, and they look like a dog-sized weasel. In addition, you'll be surprised to know that this animal can attack another animal 10 times its size. Siberia is far from 100% explored, mainly because of the extreme low temperatures there. Therefore, this is exactly what makes this location so untouched and unique. It was recently announced that researchers have found a frozen burial mound there, which is said to contain the remains of a Scythian prince. It also contains a lot of treasures, which were buried with him. It's also known that the monument is about 3,000 years old. The researchers have not dared to touch it yet, because they have to be very careful not to ruin the tomb. Speaking of Scythians, they were once one of the bravest nomadic warrior peoples. They lived from about 900 BC to 200 BC and lived scattered throughout Siberia. They left huge burial grounds, because when the rich princes died, they buried them too with all the treasures they had. In the year 2012, scientists discovered an alien structure in Antarctica after seeing it from a satellite. A strange oval formation was photographed in the ice, and the structure looks like some kind of compound. Many people wonder how this was designed in the middle of Antarctica. Because the question is difficult to answer, people assume it was created by aliens. The Ningen is without a doubt one of the creepiest and most mysterious creatures found in Antarctica, although that's what's claimed. It's unclear if this terrifying creature actually exists, but many people believe that this creature lives somewhere in Antarctica. It's said to be able to breathe underwater, and it's said to have a mermaid-like tail as well as legs that allow it to walk on land. Japanese research ships were the first to report sightings of this mysterious creature. One research ship is said to have even documented the sighting with photos and videos. William Morris is undoubtedly the most famous and influential geomorphologist who has written many interesting things about Antarctica. His most important work is The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Walls, Worlds Beyond the Antarctic. In the story, he describes a researcher who decided to explore the waters around the Antarctic Circle and went beyond the ice walls and met another civilization. Do you believe this story? Glacier Girl is the nickname for a World War II fighter plane. You may be surprised, but this plane was under the Greenland ice sheet for more than 50 years. The whole situation came about in 1942, after the plane had to make an emergency landing on the ice sheet due to bad weather conditions. Fortunately, the crew members survived, but the plane, along with about 5 other fighters, was buried under a huge layer of snow. Over the following decades, 270 feet or 82 meters of ice ended up on top of the plane. When the fighter was finally brought to the surface 50 years later, it was nicknamed Glacier Girl. However, it's unclear why it was given this name. Do you know? Let me know in the comments. Polar bears are considered the most dangerous animals of the Arctic. Peanut, however, is a polar bear that keeps coming back to visit a woman named Corinne Genest. She rescued the polar bear after it was abandoned by its mother and was still a tiny cub. Over time, the polar bear became friends with Karine, who's actually a filmmaker. Video footage shows how adorable Peanut chases a drone. Antarctica is definitely a unique place where only a few animals live. Think, for example, of seals, penguins, and orcas. But did you know that transparent fish have also been found there? This entirely new species of fish was discovered by a film crew working on the documentary Expedition Antarctica. This translucent fish became known as the Antarctic blackfin icefish. This unique fish has a body that appears to be translucent and rubbery. The reason why it looks so unique is because it's the only vertebrate that doesn't have red blood cells with the hemoglobin protein. Because of this, he doesn't absorb oxygen, and his body looks translucent. After seeing these fish, you do begin to wonder if there's any other translucent animals on our Earth. What do you think? There's many strange things going on in Antarctica we now know. But this next find is very bizarre and was discovered in 2014 after researchers unearthed 3 ancient skulls. If you compare a normal human skull to the one found by the archaeologist, you will see that they are completely different. One theory suggests that the 3 skulls belong to aliens. But another explanation is that some ancient civilizations did various weird manipulations to elongate their skulls. The White War is the name of a battle fought between Italy and Austria during World War I in the snow-capped mountains of Italy and Switzerland. The war began in 1915 and lasted about 4 years. Now, more than 100 years later, as the snow in the Alps are melting, more and more artifacts are reappearing, including those of soldiers. These battles were 3,600 meters above sea level, and temperatures could reach minus 30 degrees Celsius. Due to the extreme environment and weather conditions, more soldiers died from avalanches, landslides, and diseases than in the actual battle. But other things were found, including old diaries of soldiers and love letters that never made it to their final destination. The weather conditions of the Lost Hammer Spring can be compared to the weather on Mars, but the only difference is that the Lost Hammer Spring is located on Earth, and in the Nunavut territory of Canada's high Arctic. Interestingly, microbes have been found that have never been identified before. Most importantly, the microbes can eat methane, sulfide, sulfate, and carbon monoxide to survive. And these simple inorganic compounds are also found on Mars. We know that there's an enormous amount of ice to be found in Antarctica, but when researchers saw this next iceberg, they thought it was very strange. It was discovered in 2018 and is shaped like a perfect rectangle. It features smooth walls and sharp 90-degree angles. The iceberg can be found on the east coast, near the Larsen Sea ice shelf where it floats in the water. Could it be that because of this shape, something supernatural might be going on here? Another incredible moment that happened in Antarctica was the breaking off of the Rhone ice shelf in May 2021. The piece that broke off is called A76 and has a length of 105.5 miles, or 170 kilometers, and is 15.5 miles, or 25 kilometers wide. Scientists aren't sure what will happen to the iceberg, but it's thought that it will drift through the ocean for several years before finally melting away. A poor polar fox was spotted on a loose iceberg meters from the surface. Fortunately, people on a crab fishing boat noticed the fox and decided to help. They moved closer to the iceberg and placed the fox in a safe place in the boat. Of course, it wasn't easy to catch the fox, but the people knew they were the only chance to save the fox. We all know the movie Ice Age, right? It featured mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, sloths, and many other animals. But what about the wolf in Ice Age? A while ago, an actual Ice Age wolf pup was found in Canada. The researchers discovered this pup had been trapped in the permafrost of northern Canada for about 57,000 years. Its name is ZHUR, which means wolf in the Han language. This wolf mummy has actually been very helpful in painting the whole picture of animals with canines who lived during the Ice Age. According to research, the animal was a female, only 7 weeks old, and is a very ancient ancestor of the wolves of Russia, Siberia, and Alaska. In addition, this ancient wolf species would probably have been an ancestor of our modern wolves as well. The next fox was found by a local hunter named Franz Stell in the second longest river in Europe, the Danube. It was frozen deep in the ice, and a saw had to be used to cut a cube around it. The fox may have fallen into the river, and because it could not tolerate the low water temperature, the animal probably drowned. Over time, the water froze, and so did the fox. However, Franz took the fox to his hotel where the animal is now on display. The Danube River could be very dangerous, not only for animals, but also for humans, especially during the days with low temperatures. So this is also not the only time a fox was found in the ice, and apparently it could happen more often that animals are found frozen back. For example, in this photo, a man named Brad Webster found 2 moose in the ice. Richard E. Byrd was an American admiral and explorer who became famous for his important discoveries made by air in the Arctic. In his diaries, he described how he realized that there were aliens living in Antarctica, and he was also the one who discovered the hollow Earth. There's many theories about it, but interestingly, a year later after his death, NASA was founded, leading many people to believe that something is hidden in Antarctica. Laboratories are places where very dangerous viruses are often experimented on and researched. In science fiction movies and video games, these viruses turn humans into zombies. Recently, a lab worker at a facility in Pennsylvania, USA, found some frozen vials labeled smallpox. This facility does research on vaccines, and the employee in question found the vials while cleaning out a freezer there. Everyone was immediately very careful, because as we know, smallpox is a deadly disease, which fortunately had finally been eradicated worldwide in 1980. According to the researchers, there was no reason to panic because the worker was wearing masks and gloves. But imagine if this virus was sent out into the world again. Pretty creepy. When the Greek philosopher Plato gave a description of the city of Atlantis thousands of years ago, no one believed him. People tried to find the ancient mythical city that supposedly sank underwater, but no one could find it. However, evidence has shown up that shows Atlantis was right under us all along. In fact, it's thought that the lost city is still there, just frozen under Antarctica. Antarctica looked very different millions of years ago. In 1513, the Turkish admiral Ferry Reis made a map showing the coast of Antarctica, hundreds of years before the continent was discovered in 1820. Charles Hapgood wrote in his 1958 book, Earth-Shifting Crust, that the city of Atlantis was buried under tons of layers of ice. Could this really be true? If you need even more unusual facts about Antarctica, here's this one. 2 large underwater lakes were recently discovered on the continent. The lakes were buried deep beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. What's most interesting is that the lakes keep filling and emptying, which may affect how fast the ice sheets move. In Siberia, a large area in northern Asia, a group of scientists found an ancient virus buried 30 meters deep in a layer of permafrost. Incredibly, when the ice began to melt, the virus came back to life and became active again after being inactive for about 30,000 years. The virus was called Pithovirus sapericum, and it's no ordinary virus. In fact, it belongs to a class of giant viruses about 1.5 micrometers in length. It was so unusually large that unlike other viruses, it could be seen through a microscope. After scientific research was done, it became known that this was the first time they had encountered a virus that was still contagious after such a long time. Fortunately, it could not infect humans or other animals. Rather, it's interested in amoebas, a type of single-cell organisms. Still, scientists found it a bit frightening. After all, it could mean that melting ice could potentially harbor new viruses that are harmful to humans. If you've ever heard anything about mummies, you've probably heard of OTZI, Europe's most popular mummy. Researchers found him in the ice and found out that the man died in the Alps about 5,000 years ago. It's now been 30 years since scientists found his remains. What turns out to be extremely interesting is that he was in fact mummified naturally. The wind, the sun, and the freezing cold did that. It's believed that the man was killed, as the researchers found several wounds on his left shoulder. After OTZI the Iceman was found, he immediately became a worldwide sensation as an ice mummy. If you want to see OTZI today, you can find him at the South Tyrolean Archaeological Museum in Bolzano, Italy. Have you ever found anything in ice? Let us know in the comments. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos we've made, click one on the screen or take a look at the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.